Hey guys, it's been a while. Over the past few weeks, after several playtests and a lot of feedback from our amazing community, I finally pushed out a new build with a ton of new features and improvements. We've added 2 new levels, reworked the cult leader mini-boss, introduced 4 new weapon models, added a new mini-boss, improved minion interactions, created a new capture mechanic, and much more. If you're new to the channel, I'm June and I'm making a game called Wisplight. It's a reverse RPG where you play as a wisp who can transform into different monsters to fight off human invaders trying to conquer your island home. If you're interested in following the game's development, feel free to subscribe to get updates. Let's begin! In our previous devlog, I introduced the cult leader as a new mini-boss. Since then, I've felt his design was lacking depth, so I made a few big changes. First, I gave him a skeleton mask and a hood to better match the aesthetic of his cult members. Before, he looked too much like a generic soldier. Then, his projectile attack has been reworked. It now targets the player more accurately rather than randomly throwing out unstable shards. Apart from that, I added changes to the AI behavior of this mini-boss. The cult leader can now flee the battlefield to look for reinforcements. This adds tension and creates more complex encounters where you're fighting him alongside a group of cultists. While you're chasing him or trying to clear his cultist, he will throw unstable crystal shards your way, forcing you to dodge while being chased. It creates chaotic moments where you're caught between his magic and his underlings. After multiple local and online playtests, we noticed that sword builds, especially dual wielding, had become the dominant meta. It's also one of my favorite setups. However, blunt weapons like Morning Stars were underused, even though they deal high stability damage and can easily stun enemies. To address this, I introduced a new damage resistance system. In Wisplight, we now classify damage into 4 types. We have Slash for swords, we have Blunt for maces and Morning Stars, we have Pierce for spears and polearms, and elemental damage like fire and frost. Previously, all enemies took flat damage on all weapons. Now, each enemy and monster has unique resistances that reduce or amplify damage based on weapon type. For example, let's break down how the new resistance system works using actual in-game cases. An armored mercenary guard takes 20% less damage from slash attacks, like those from swords, but 30% more damage from blunt weapons such as Morning Stars or maces. A torchbearer is the opposite. They take 20% less from blunt weapons, but suffer 30% more from slash attacks. So swords are your best bet against them. This encourages players to switch weapons or build hybrids. For example, a sword in one hand and a blunt weapon in the other. Then we have acolytes and necrolytes, highly flammable due to their usage of essence. Now they take 50% more fire damage. This system applies to the player too, depending on the monster form you're using. If you're using the skeleton, you'll take 30% more damage from blunt weapons, but you're slightly resistant to slash and pierce attack. Your fortitude is also immune to fire thanks to your monster perk Fire Immunity, which is unique to the skeleton. On the other hand, the Spriggan form is highly flammable. It takes 50% more fire damage, but it's 30% more resistant to blunt attacks and takes 10% slightly more from slash. Let's talk about blunt weapons. We made a few changes to improve their feel and balance. Blunt weapons now deal slightly more physical damage. Also, their stability damage was turned down a bit to avoid constant stun locks. We also increased the stability cost per swing, so you'll need to manage stability more carefully. We also gave the Morning Star a full visual overhaul. New models are now in for crude, Standard, Refined, and Master-crafted versions. Master-crafted Morning Stars, just like any other master-crafted item, can now be socketed with an Ember Stone to apply fire damage with every hit. Speaking of fire, fire just got a major upgrade. Now it stacks. The more fire damage you apply, the more damage it deals over time. Each fire hit increases the burn intensity, ramping up the damage per second. This change makes fire-based builds like dual torches more viable, more tactical, and a lot more fun to play.
Please! Please! No!
In Wisplight, since we're playing as monsters, we don't really die. Instead, we get captured. Previously, we only have one capture mechanic in the game. This happens when you're in Wisp form and the enemies will throw Aether Flask at you to capture you. You're then sealed inside an Aether vessel until you use your Catalyst Explosion skill to break free, at the cost of half your Catalyst. Now I added 2 new types of this capture mechanic. This one happens when you're deep beneath the crypts or are fighting the cultists. They'll capture you using Aether Flask, then imbue you in a skeleton placed inside a coffin, ready to be consumed by the roots for essence, or to be prepared for a summoning ritual to make you one of their minions. Similar with the Aether Vessel capture mechanic, you need to sacrifice half of your essence here to escape. The only difference is, you're already in skeleton form. Another capture mechanic I added is when you're captured near safe zones. When this happens, Cassandra's minions will come to your rescue, and Cassandra will conjure you back as a skeleton. During this event, your catalysts are not sacrificed. With these new capture mechanics in place, I also added 1 new loot system and 2 item recovery systems. Previously, the methods in which we can get items is through enemy drops, item racks, and occasionally specific places where a specific item is spawned. I've now added a new way to find items randomly. Certain coffins, specifically those marked with a blooded handprint, can contain loot. Not all coffins will have this mark, so keep an eye out during your exploration. This method is also a way to retrieve your items when you drop them. Previously, you can only get them by searching for your drop item in item racks. Now, you can find them somewhere in the caves in one of these marked coffins. Another way to recover your dropped items is through Cassandra's Minion Guard. If you're rescued after being captured near a safe zone, this minion will retrieve and hold your dropped weapon. Simply interact with it to reclaim your gear. The skeleton guard can also pick up nearby weapons automatically when unarmed. We've added the Bone Pit, a dark, desolate area beneath the crypts where the cult discards decaying bones. I added thick fog here to obscure your vision and build a sense of mystery and dread about what lies ahead. Another level is the Deep Caves, located just beneath this bridge. This zone features low ceilings and waterlogged path. I plan to add a quest event here in a future update, so stay tuned. Next up, we added new door types to bring more variety to exploration and progression. First are the Essence doors. These can be opened using Essence and are toggled open or shut via nearby activation pillars. They're usually found near massive gates, the kind that would be impossible for a single person to open manually, hence the use of magic. Then we have locked doors, which require keys dropped directly by mini-bosses. I made a game design decision here to give you the key automatically after defeating the enemy, to avoid confusion or frustration from having to hunt around the environment for a dropped item. This keeps exploration flowing and helps avoid unnecessary backtracking. Lastly, there are latch doors. These can be opened from one side only. They don't require keys and cannot be shut once opened. I also added a brand new mini-boss beneath the crypts, the Boneguard. This elite cult defender wears heavy bone armor and is usually seen wielding blunt weapons. That makes him especially dangerous if you're using the skeleton monster form, since with our recent resistance update, the skeleton is vulnerable to blunt damage. He starts off slow, with predictable and heavily telegraphed attack animations, but once his buff aura activates, he becomes way more aggressive. His attack speed ramps up, and his moveset shifts into a relentless forward pressuring style. It creates a solid combat curve that forces you to stay alert and adapt. Thanks again to all our amazing patrons for supporting this project. Your feedback and encouragement help me make Wisplight better with every update. If you enjoyed this devlog, don't forget to wishlist Wisplight on Steam. Subscribe to the channel for more updates, and join our Discord. We post daily progress, answer questions, and run regular playtests with our community. Till next time.